Greetings. I wanted to share some more of my mediumship experiences and some experience that I've had when in contact with spirits that I've encountered since I've been practicing. One I want to talk about was in the beginning when I had first began. I was at work at one of my jobs, and when I came outside to my car, there was a spirit in my car. He was a young gentleman. He looked like he was probably 19 or 20. I immediately knew, but when I got in the car, he looked at me and he was like, he asked me, was he dead? And that was the first for me. That blew me away. He looked at me and he was like, am I dead? And I looked at him and I'm like, yeah. And he said, so what about my mom? And I said, well, you know, she loves you very much. He said, so what do I do now? At that moment, I panicked and I didn't know what to do. So I called one of my friends and I'm like, there's a spirit here. He does not know he's dead. He's asking me, what does he do? What do I tell him? So my friend was like, girl, I don't know. Ask him, does he see a tunnel or something? Usually people see a tunnel. And I was like, okay. So we sat on the phone. Mind you, this whole time I'm in the car. And this process, it happened over a period of maybe, it was quick, probably about 4 or 5 minutes. And I was sitting in the car. And so I just closed my eyes and focused. And I saw like a long, it was almost like a corridor. It was a long corridor and it was a bright light at the end of the corridor. But standing with us was a woman. And if I'm not mistaken, I think her name was Ruth. So I asked him, I said, do you know this woman? And he said, that's my grandmother. So I told him, go with your grandmother. And he said, okay. So I watched him walk down this corridor with his grandmother. And he stopped and he looked back at me and he said, what about my daughter? And I assured him that she'd be okay. I said, your baby will be okay. So he kept going and then I didn't see them anymore. And I think it was maybe like when I got home, we had the news on and a young man was murdered. And I just so happened to know his mother. I had worked with his mother at one time and he had a daughter on the way. And when I seen his picture, it was him. So that was my first experience with helping a spirit to cross. And since then, I've had many. I think every time I go to a hospital or a graveyard or somewhere like that, I tell you, I'm flooded. So I try to do as much as I can, but it can be very draining. Another time, which was not too long ago, I had a dream. And in my dream, a young man, he was just so upset. Matter of fact, this happened like right after Christmas. He was so upset and he was just like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe they did this to me. He said, what about my daughter? I got a baby on the way. This is not fair. I asked him what his name was and he told me his name. Just for the video's sake, I'm gonna make up one. He told me, I thought he said E. I thought his name was E. So I talked to the young man and again, I did my process where I just kind of look around to see what I see. And this time I saw, it was like a woman and it was 2 women and a gentleman. And you can tell the woman and the gentleman were like an older married couple. I felt like they were like maybe great grandparents. And there was another woman that was younger. And he had recognized the younger woman. So I helped him to go with them to cross over. The next morning when I woke up, again, we happened to turn on the news. And a young man here where we live at was murdered. It was senseless. He was murdered. The community that he lived in, it took them by storm. It was a lot of hearts broken. A lot of people that were hurt. And when I saw his picture, it looked just like him. But his name did not begin with an E, and it wasn't E, but it was T. So that was another experience, and that was a first for me because I've never had a dream about somebody. Usually I'll just kind of see them or feel them, but that time it was a dream that I had before I woke up. Those are two very unique experiences I had, dealing with two different spirits. They were both young men. They were both murdered, but I was able to help them cross over to their loved ones. Wait, I gotta talk about one more. So a few months ago, I was in a hospital, and I call them the Golden Girls. It was about 5 old ladies, and they were together. They didn't know each other, but they were together, and they were in my hospital room with me. And I'll never forget these ladies because they were all so unique. And it was weird because I almost felt like they knew they were dead, but they were hanging around for some reason. So I don't know if they were like, I know for sure one of them was kind of worried about her grandkids. And I sat down there in the hospital that day, and I helped. I was able to help. Out of 5 of them, I was able to help 3 of them to cross over. The 2 that remained, they didn't want to go. So sometimes the spirit won't cross over because they're not ready or they don't want to, or sometimes they have attachments that keep them here. Like, I think, and it's just my 2 cents, I think that grief might keep them here. So grief, or sometimes items or material things can keep them attached here. Like I had a spirit before that stuck around because the family was fighting over the deed to her house and her land and her properties, and she told me flat out she wasn't going until they came to a resolution. She didn't want them to fight. So even, I'm giving this message for people who have lost a loved one and siblings are fighting and stuff like that. That can hold somebody here, I'm telling you. Or a lot of heavy grief that can hold somebody here too. So if you would like to book a reading, you can book on my page at www.jazzthemedium.com. I offer several services and products. I am also offering a new service, which is a financial forecast for the whole year. So check me out. Also, you can email me at jazzthemedium@gmail.com, and I look forward to sharing more of my mediumship experiences as time presses on. Peace.